My name is Deepak Vohra. I'm an ambassador of India, so that gives me a total of 5 husbands, 2 in India and 3 in Africa. And my other name is Draupadi. But if I give myself full marks, that'll be one area, which is sincerity. Look, these are young kids, let them go. Their lives are in front of them. Take me as a hostage. I am the storm. I cannot hide from myself. Tufan to mahi. The first thing we look for is trust. Join the foreign service, we are the best.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Prajay Munot. I'm a third year UG student from the Department of Mathematics. Public Policy and Governance Society, it serves as one of the dynamic platform for the impassionated students for all of the KGPNs to rigorously examine and deliberate upon and also actively engage with the current public policy and issues. And also here our society, it organizes various kind of events such as cracking UPSC code and also mentorship programs to take the CSE preparation to hold to a next new level. We're having a few questions for you, sir, which we want to get some insights from you.
Good. Go ahead.
So could you share with us some memorable experiences from your time at St. Columba's School, Delhi and St. Stephen's College?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here with you. My name is Deepak Vohra. I'm an ambassador of India and a special advisor to the Prime Minister in three African countries, as well as in Kargil and in Ladakh. So that gives me a total of 5 husbands, 2 in India and 3 in Africa. And my other name is Draupadi. I belong to the Indian Foreign Service class of 1973. I have served as ambassador in 6 countries. Let me first talk to you about what I believe were not the qualities, that's a very strong word, but what came from within, which enabled me to join the Foreign Service. I wasn't a very successful ambassador. Others were far more intelligent and better at their work. But if I give myself full marks, that'll be one area, which is sincerity. Where I didn't succeed, it was not because I didn't try. It's just that I wasn't good enough. St. Columba's School was a great experience. Prior to that, I'd been to school in Dehradun, in Chennai, wherever my father was posted. And very strong values in terms of ethics, integrity and honesty. It was run by the Christian brothers, mainly from Ireland. Now, of course, it's all Indian teachers who are very good. And they taught us the value of integrity and honesty and of speaking the truth, whatever the consequences. Then I went on to St. Stephen's College, where I learned the value of bonding, of forming lifelong friendships, of questioning everything. We were trained to challenge received wisdom. If somebody said, do this, then we would ask ourselves, why should we do it? We would question, we would try and understand the thought process. Then I joined the Foreign Service in 1973, did several postings. And I'll share with you some experiences. I didn't have many experiences in college, except that the woman who has been my wife for 46 years, I met her when I was in college. That was the biggest achievement. But as ambassador in Sudan, there was an experience where some of our oil workers, young kids, 25, 30, were kidnapped by a group of rebels. They had this intertribal nonsense going on between the government and the smaller tribes. So I managed to establish contact with them. I speak Arabic, and I said, look, these are young kids, let them go. Their lives are in front of them. Take me as a hostage, because all you want is money. Then they asked me, will your government pay us a ransom? I said, they might give you $1. Beyond that, you won't get anything. Release these kids. As we were negotiating, 2 of the kids tried to run away. 1 got shot and killed, I think. The other 2 were released. And then my ministry, my superiors, my principals in Delhi said, don't do this again. Because if an ambassador is held hostage, that's serious stuff. So I told them, all right, I won't do it next time. And then one of my colleagues who was in charge of administration, from my year of seniority, he sent me a message. He says, Deepak, I'm sorry to inform you that we are very angry with you and the storm is coming, so you hide. And I responded to him. I said, buddy, thank you for warning me, but I am the storm. I cannot hide from myself. Tufan to mahi. So anyway, that went on, and that was a great experience that I had. Another was when I was posted in Armenia as ambassador. There was a case of several Indians who were in trouble. I had to rescue them. So I went and I met whoever I had to. And he said this, that and the other. I just smiled at him very politely and I said, sir, this is not about me, it's about our children. If anything happens to them, will make a horrible example of you personally. I haven't spoken to your leadership. I'm telling you straight. Sort out the mess he did. So there are times when we, in the foreign service, we are very polite and kind. And there are others when we have to be very tough. I would never do it for myself. Never for personal benefit. I'd always do it for national benefit. That is what we are trained to follow. Now, if some of your people are looking for civil service careers, excuse me, I sit on interview boards and so on. So what we look for, first of all, when we are interviewing potential civil servants, is the trust factor. Is this person worthy of my trust? Can I trust this person? Then I look for sincerity. This is something that I want all of you who are watching this to understand. You've written your exam. I know your marks. I've seen your bio profile. Why have I called you for an interview? Because I want to understand the person behind the paper. And therefore the interview has a lot of marks. It is very, very important that you come across as someone who would join the civil service because he or she is fired by passion. There's fire in the belly to leave wherever you are posted, whatever you do, to leave that place or assignment better than you found it.
What motivated you to join the Indian Foreign Service?
That's a good question. I was already a television star in India in 1970, extremely well known, because there was only one channel, the national channel, Doordarshan. I did want to make it a career. I also tried my hand in some Bollywood films, which were miserable flops. And then there was nothing else available at that time. My father was a civil servant. I was told to write the civil service exam. I did, hoping that not hoping, but afraid that I would not qualify. And as it transpired, I came first. Somebody obviously made a mistake. So I joined the foreign service. In my interview, I was asked the same question. Why do you want to join the foreign service? I could have said, oh, I want to explain India's foreign policy to the world. I would have been thrown out. Therefore, the last 40 years, we've not been wasting our time. We've been explaining India's foreign policy. All the chaps who came before you were not duffers. So I was asked. And I said, essentially, it's for me, I want to understand India's external relations. I want to travel. I've never been to an overseas country. I've never been out of India. And this is an opportunity for me. And I'd like to learn. For me, it's a continuous learning process. As the world gets closer, the world gets globalized, the world gets separated. This is the time when the two superpowers were fighting with each other. We used to call it the Cold War. So I'd like to understand what's happening from a different perspective. I'd like to see how India is perceived by other countries. And I think that the interview board was satisfied that there was no tall claims from my side that I would transform India's image. I can't. Similarly, for people who are looking for other services, the IAS in particular, take it from me, you are not going to transform India overnight. We became independent 76 years ago. There were lots of good people who've done amazing work. But what you can do is touch the lives of people who you come into contact with. 20 people, 50, 100. And then they in turn will spread goodwill. You have to be a happy person. If you're not, I'm afraid that you will find it very difficult in the civil service. Be the best version of yourself. And it shows. दो तरह के लोग होते हैं. एक को हम DA कहते हैं, दूसरे को SA कहते हैं. DA is दुखी आत्मा and SA is सुखी आत्मा. See the good in people. See the good in your nation. See the good in your world. There are many more good people than bad people. Unfortunately, the media, that's the way it is. You hear more about the bad people. You don't hear so much about the good people. If there's a scam, you'll hear about it. Look at the size of our banking sector. So if there are 50 scams, that's all that you'll hear about. But all the other wonderful people who work there, day and night, diligently, they join, they retire, they go home, they get their salaries, their pensions. They don't do anything to hurt the Indian economy. There are many more good people. Identify them, interact with them. But more than anything else, khush raho. If you're not happy, you won't be successful. Happiness underlies success.
That's so highly motivational. And so, like coming to the IFS, it's like which is something different from IAS and IPS. Like
well, we always say the IAS and the IPS are useless. Join the foreign service. I'm saying this with a smile.
Yeah,
Go
actually,
ahead.
many of the candidates are like who are preparing for the civil services. They mean majorly they prefer IPS and IFS, IAS only, but they don't know much about the
foreign
IFS.
service.
So, could you please elaborate about on the previous?
You know what I'd like to tell you about? See, what has happened is the past, but if you are looking at the foreign service now, you're looking at the future. If you see my biodata, and I'm not boasting, it says just an ordinary son of India. That's it. My past is gone. My present I'm living. My future is what I hope to build. I'm 72 years young. Still very good looking. Thank you. In the Foreign Service today, when I joined the service, we had the Cold War going on. These two characters fighting with each other, the Soviet Union and the United States. And then there was a third racket based in New York. You might have heard of it. It's called the United something or the United Nations, I believe. That's the name, yes. So at that time we used to say when the two superpowers agree, the United Nations is pointless. When they disagree, it is powerless. At all other times, it is useless. But they didn't do anything. They haven't been able to promote world peace or prevent wars or do anything. But then the Cold War ended. And there was a moment when people said that my teacher, one of my teachers, Francis Fukuyama, wrote about the end of history. That history is finished. Now forever the Western system will dominate. It didn't. 9/11 happened. It shook the world. A bad thing to happen, but also it taught the world that relationships and power equations change. So then we came across this racket called globalization. The world is one. Has it succeeded? I don't know. There are some who claim that it has lifted millions out of poverty. There are others who say that it has increased the gap between the rich and the poor. Then we heard about the spectacular rise of China. Now we are hearing about the equally spectacular fall of China. So the world keeps changing. The world is dynamic. The world is not static. International relations also change. The Foreign Service gives you the opportunity to have a macro perspective, to see how the world is changing. For example, there was the Munich Security Conference in February of 2024, and then we had the Raisina Dialogue. The Munich Security Conference is the largest from a Western perspective, the largest in the world. The Raisina Dialogue in New Delhi is the largest in the global south, the developing world. Now at Munich there was an Arab minister who was asked, and this wasn't highlighted, I was very surprised when I read it. He was asked that the Arab world, the Middle East, is a very volatile region. Everybody is fighting with everybody else. And it all began in 1979 when the Shah of Iran was booted out and the Ayatollah Khomeini came in. Then the Iraqi fellow used to be a character called Saddam Hussein. He attacked Iran. The war carried on throughout the decade of the 80s. Then that ended, and then Saddam Hussein, the ruler of Iraq, attacked Kuwait, and then he was attacked by the Americans. So all the equations there were changing. Now today it's a volatile region. You have trouble in Libya, you have trouble in Yemen, you have trouble in Syria, you have trouble in Egypt, you have trouble from time to time in Saudi Arabia, you have trouble in Bahrain. That entire region is very volatile. So this guy was asked, this minister, that how do you ensure stability, security in your region? He gave a very interesting response. He said, look, initially the Americans were the providers of security. We would depend on them. Now we can't. After they got thrashed in Afghanistan, they ran away with their tails stuck between their legs. We can't depend on the Russians because the Russians are too busy messing up Ukraine and doing all kinds of funny things in Africa. The Chinese we don't trust. I'm only quoting what this guy said. Because they are absolute, he said. They're untrustworthy. Once they come, they'll make tall promises and they'll never leave. And he says that leaves only one great power capable of ensuring security in our region. That is Bharat. I was very surprised to hear him call us a great power. But that is the new perception of India. We see the image of India changing. If I may paraphrase William Wordsworth, bliss is it in India to be alive today, but to be young is very heaven. You see these changing equations taking place. Why is my navy running around in the Red Sea? Ask yourself this question. You won't find a satisfactory answer. Now, if the Red Sea shuts down, then this will happen. That's all rubbish. That's old hat. Ships are coming around the Cape of Good Hope. What if the Suez Canal blows up tomorrow? It ceases to exist. We'll still do trade and commerce. But we are there because we are demonstrating to the world our power, our capability. Just today, we are talking on the 25th of February, 2024. We have rescued another ship from the Houthis. They tried to hijack it, and then they communicated with their headquarters. We have those conversations where the pirates tell their bosses, the Indian Navy is coming. They say, oh, the Indian Navy, bhag jao, ye bahut marenge tumko. They are so scared of us, and the world is beginning to see my naval power. We didn't join any coalition. We did it to tell the world we are here. You remember the pandemic, the Chinese virus in 2021? I did not have enough viruses, and yet I gave 100 countries free viruses. Why? There were no elections going on at that time. Abhi to Modi kuch bhi karta hai to election ke liye kar raha hai. Just today he has said there'll be no more Sunday Man Ki Baat, because for 3 months he won't do it till the election. So we have an idea that within 3 months the elections will be over. Why did we give the free vaccines? मेरे चाचा लगते हैं, मेरे ताए हैं, मेरे अंकल हैं, मेरी आंटी हैं, मेरे भाई हैं, मेरे रिश्तेदार हैं, नहीं हैं. People call it vaccine diplomacy. Very good, it's vaccine diplomacy, but why? When you say this is food diplomacy or medicine diplomacy or this diplomacy, that, ask yourself the question, why? We did it because we're a very good people. We did it to tell the world you can depend on us. China sent its visiting card to 200 countries. That visiting card said virus. I sent my visiting card to 200 countries. It said vaccine. That's the difference. There are 193 members of that old, doddering old creature in New York, the United Nations. Of the 193, leave out two, China and its colony, I think it's called something or the other. Some Kazakhstan or Pakistan or some, I don't even remember. Leave out those two, and 191 would say India is our choice. We had G20 recently in the nation's capital last year. Now, think about this. There are 3 African countries that I'm privileged to serve, Guinea-Bissau, South Sudan, and the Kingdom of Lesotho. You haven't even heard of these. So when an ambassador of Guinea-Bissau gets up in some session of the United Nations and says, look, my country has this problem, people say, Guinea-Bissau kahan hai? Baith ja chup karke. Nobody has time to listen to you. Nobody listens to the little fellow. The big fellows dominate. But India said, and this is in January of 2023, that I will raise your issues at the global platform. Tell me what bothers you. So we convened a virtual meeting of 125 leaders from the developing world. I said, what are your issues? And they told us. And we raised those issues. We incorporated many of them into the Delhi Declaration for the G20. We even invited the African Union, which consists of 54 countries, to become a member. And of the 3 countries that I'm privileged to serve, 2 के मंत्रियों ने मुझे phone किया और बोले कि Mr. Ambassador, now as far as we are concerned, India is our choice. तो मैंने उसका जवाब भी दिया. मैंने कहा, यही है right choice, baby. You have made the right choice. But we will never disappoint you. We'll never cheat you. That's not in our system. When we talk of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we talk of one world, the world as one family, we mean it. वो हमारी परंपरा है. That's our tradition. So if you understand this and you see the global changes taking place, United Nations, who on earth has given these 5 Kauravas, I call them, they are not Pandavas. Who has given them the eternal right to decide what is good for the world? The members of the UN Security Council. It's not in the Bible, it's not in the Gita, it's not in the Quran, it's not in the Guru Granth Sahib, it's not in the Talmud. So who are you? Who gave you this right? That time there were 40 or 50 countries that formed the United Nations. Today we have 4 times as many. Why shouldn't a country like India, the largest population in the world, 3rd most powerful military, 3rd most powerful economy, why shouldn't we be there? Now these are questions to which nobody has an answer. They'll all politely tell us, oh yes, India should be there. So what are you doing about this? Or what can we do about it? What can you do about it? So we are seeing these global challenges taking place. The old world order, dominated by the West, is dying. The new world order, which is more equitable, is struggling to be born. The West is fighting a rearguard action. They will not allow the new order to come out. Russia's invasion of Ukraine, right or wrong, I don't pass a value judgment. But they've done it. Should they have done it? We'll talk about it till the cows come home. Gaza and Israel and Hamas. Should Hamas have attacked? No. Should Israel have responded with the kind of force that they are responding with? I don't know. So we are seeing a changing world. Is China going to take Taiwan by force? If they had the force and the capability, they would have done it long ago. They haven't done it. Taiwan is going to fight back and China is going to be hurt very badly. So these are issues that we see. It's a new world being created every day. And I think that if you opt for the Foreign Service, you get a bird's eye view, a first-hand view of how the new world is being shaped, the new world order. What we call it new world order, I don't have a better term. But you'll see how a more equitable order. What's wrong with the chap who's born in the Kingdom of Lesotho? Isn't his blood red? Doesn't he hurt as much as anybody else? Did he choose to be born there? Why don't you listen to what he's saying? For big countries, the problems might be nuclear and global climate change, which is for us also in India a major challenge. But for that little fellow, his main problem is food. His main problem is agriculture, drinking water. Isn't that important for him? Just because you have enough food and water, you don't care about that. It's not an equitable world. And that's what we are trying. India is trying to change. So it's a very exciting time to be a member of the Indian Foreign Service.
Viewers reflect the core values of India, sir. So how do you
India's core values are universal values.
Yes, sir. So like as you said, sir, like Houthis, they were stopping the ships at the Suez Canal, right, sir? And also they have stopped one of our ships too. So as
yeah, but you know, I'm sorry, I don't even want to listen to what your article says, because that's media interpretation.
Yeah, sir.
Those of us who are there, you see, there is a thing called, I don't know if you heard about it, it's called the duck syndrome. Have you heard this word?
No, sir.
The duck, when it floats on the water, everything is calm and pleasant.
Yes.
But its feet below the surface you don't see, working furiously. India's diplomacy follows the duck syndrome. Look, we had these 8 characters who were from the Indian Navy, and Qatar sentenced them to death. Who brought them back? On the only social media platform which I am on, which is called LinkedIn, I've read people saying, oh, the civil servant, foreign service job, these are all parasites, they do nothing. All right. And most of those comments are from people who wrote the exam but couldn't get in, so they're very angry. Now, why did they release these 8 guys? We talked to them. And we followed a certain process. Had it been the Chinese, they would have said, we'll teach you a lesson. But what we told them that you have accused these guys of spying for Israel. The reality is that the Israelis are working on the same project that we were working on. So why should I spy for them when they're sitting there? It's an Italian project, 2 Italian midget submarines. The Israelis know all about it. They have the same submarines. What do they need to learn from you? Why do they want to steal knowledge from you? They understood, the Emir understood. But we didn't want to say, don't follow your procedure. Qatar, which is a dictatorship, wanted to show the world that they have a legal procedure, which they don't. The Emir decides everything. So then they changed the death sentence to varying terms of imprisonment. And then came the pardon. And our people came back. Now that was a great success for us. But we didn't shout and scream when they came back. Ha, hum jeet gaye. No. We just said, we appreciate the action taken by the Emir. So this is this low-key diplomacy, but very effective. I have been told by many people across the world that Indian diplomacy is the best in the world away. But we call her Mother India. That's something which the Foreign Service, I'm so proud of. A mother, ask any mother, anywhere in the world, when her children are in trouble, she'll fight with God. And that's a mother. But we call India Bharat Maa, Mother India. So when her children were in trouble, she went to Yemen, she went to Libya, she went to Israel, she went to Sudan, she went to South Sudan, she went to Ukraine. She brought her children back. We call her Mother India, Bharat Maa. On climate, the West has devastated the climate. We haven't. How can we? We call her Dharti Maa, the earth is our mother. We worship rivers, we worship mountains, we worship animals, we worship birds, we worship stones. And Bhagwan Hanuman, people say he belonged to the monkey clan. We worship him. Lord Ganesha. Jatayu was a bird who fought against Ram. These are things that we understand. And may I say one more thing for the millions of people who will watch this. I consider, and I say this with total sincerity, I consider India's Prime Minister, Narendra Bhai Damodar Das Modi, as Jumbo One. If you're familiar with the Ramayana, Jumbo One was the king of the bears. And when Bhagwan Hanuman was on the southern tip of India, he could see Sri Lanka, he could see Lanka in the distance. And he was told by birds and others that Sita Ma might be there. So go. He was wondering how to go. There was no bridge. And then the king of the bears, Jumbo One, came to him and said, Hanuman, remember your strength. Hanuman did. And in one leap, he crossed over to Lanka. So today, Narendra Modi has enabled us to rediscover our strength, internal and external. We have diplomatic strength, economic strength, military strength. Ultimately, we have what I call comprehensive national willpower. And nobody has been able to damage our willpower. So I call him Jumbo One because he has made us aware of who we are. And that, as a Foreign Service officer, is a tremendous satisfaction for me.
That's really nice.
I speak 12 languages. I'm not boasting, it's just that I learned. So when I was talking about language, I'll give you a small example. I speak Armenian fluently. It's a Sanskrit-based language. I was ambassador there for 3.5 years. So whenever I'd go to see the president of Armenia, the great chap, Robert Kocharian, he would tell me, he said, Mr. Ambassador, bring your interpreter. So I said, Your Excellency, Mr. President, I speak Armenian. He'd say, yes, you speak classical, pure Armenian. I speak street Armenian. I don't understand what you're saying. It was a joke between us. We enjoyed it very much. Learning languages, keeping an open mind, without passing any value judgment. Is this better or is that better? It doesn't matter. The Malaysians have such a beautiful habit. When a son sees his father, he kisses the father's hand. Very beautiful. And after they've shaken hands, they put their hands on their heart. Very nice. It's a different form of expressing your relationship. We do namaskar, which is really a form of prayer. I pray to the divinity within you. I pray to your soul. Otherwise, what's the point of doing this? And during the pandemic, of course, it became university acts. I don't want to touch you guys, so stay away.
Yes, sir. So as we have heard, like your motto is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, sir. So could you?
That's India's philosophy.
Yes, sir. So
It means the world is one family. It means we're all brothers and sisters. You know something? Try this. Anybody in the world, let's say the fellow lives in Argentina, or the chap lives in South Africa, within 7 relationships with human beings, you'll be able to reach that person. You have a friend who lives in Chennai, who has a friend who lives in France, who has a friend who lives in North America, who has a friend who lives in Chile, who has a friend who lives in Argentina. Who will locate this? So within 7 relationships, you are able to reach anybody in the world. That is Vasudev Kutumbakam. And our old chaps, our sages, were very clever chaps. They did a lot of research. And when we talk about the moon, what did the Prime Minister say? He said, Chanda Mama Dur ke. Gana sunte the na? Now it's become Chanda Mama Dur ke. We're going to start going on tour. Next year in 2025, the first manned Indian landing on the moon will take place. What I would like to tell you, all of those who are civil service aspirants, apart from being happy people, a positive mindset, is also learn to read, learn to listen, learn to observe and absorb. In 1947, only my body became free. My mind was still very British, very colonial. I used to run off to Oxford and Cambridge and all that rubbish. 1971, I was still very diffident. Mrs. Gandhi went to America and said, the Pakistanis have sent 1 crore refugees from Bengal, East Bengal, into Tripura. My economy can't handle it. So the Americans had a terrible fellow as president, a chap called Richard Nixon. And he said, look, I don't know what I can do, but don't fight with Pakistan, you'll lose. She said, when we need your advice, Mr. President, we'll ask for it. So then a war broke out. In 13 days, we smashed the Pakistani army and Bangladesh became free in 1971. So 71, my strength became free. And when I put Netaji Subhash Bose's statue at the gateway, or at India Gate in the nation's capital, I had learnt in school and college that he was a terrible fellow. He was fighting the British Empire. 2.5 million British Indian Army soldiers, Indians in the British Indian Army, fought for the empire. Subhash Chandra Bose fought for India's independence with 40,000 people. And the British Prime Minister at that time, who gave India independence, acknowledged that the British were not scared of Mahatma Gandhi, they were scared of Netaji Subhash Bose. So they ran away from it. So when his statue was installed, that time my knowledge became free. Who was this man? And then when Chandrayaan landed at the most difficult spot on the moon in 2023, my self-confidence became free. Or beta jis din Ram Lalla apne ghar aaye, 22nd of January 2024, us din meri atma bhi azad ho gayi. My spirit became free. Now I have total liberation of body, mind and soul. That's the greatest thing that can happen to a nation.
So valuable. So last but not the least, on a personal note, what is the advice that you would like to offer to the students who are preparing for UPSC?
Keep an open mind, observe, learn, think. Go beyond whatever you are studying. That will be your written papers you've selected. But we look for awareness. We don't want you to be experts in anything. And above all, be true to yourself. If you're asked a question and you don't know the answer, forgive my language, don't bullshit. It takes us 3 seconds to figure out that you don't know and you're bluffing. Don't bluff. Just say, honestly, I don't know. Even God doesn't know everything. There's so many things that go on that the devil does, which God doesn't know about. I hope he knows, but he doesn't intervene. So if you don't know it, say, I don't know it. I haven't studied it right. I'm not aware of it. That honesty impresses every interviewer thoroughly. But keep an open mind. Read, listen to television, watch channels. Try and get different perspectives on any one issue. And then form your judgment. Ultimately, my only advice is a parting advice. Very often, feel with your mind and think with your heart. And you'll get the answers.
It's an invaluable insight from you, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you very much. बहुत अच्छा लगा आप लोगों से बातचीत की. Welcome to the civil service. Join the foreign service. We are the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
We are the best. The others are the rest. Thank you.
That's so nice, sir.